Service Podcast.
Hello, everyone who's listening. I'm Darren Jones. I'm Zach, his brother. Yep, and we are interviewing a professional animator for TV called Sean Janisse. He's a 2D artist for animation. So do you want to introduce yourself, Sean, to everyone?
Hey, yeah, I'm Sean Janisse. I'm an animator and storyboard artist working in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Happy to be here and answer as many questions and give any insights I can.
We've got, I'd say, a couple of questions to ask you, Sean.
Yeah.
I hope you're ready, and as ready as we are. So just to start off, what got you interested in animation? Like, what kind of gave you that light bulb on top of your head that's like, hey, I want to do that?
So for me, it kind of started, I was always interested in acting and movies and stuff when I was younger, but then, being on stage or being in front of people terrified the crap out of me. So from there, I kind of married my love for drawing and doodling into that, because I learned, like, oh, it's basically like a marriage of the two. So kind of from there, that's kind of when it clicked, where I was like, oh, I can draw and still have that feeling for acting by acting through the drawings. So that's kind of where I started going, oh, this could be something I can go into one day.
Yeah. Okay. So again, okay. So what you said? So you said about you used to think acting was really cool. Like, yeah. What made you think acting was really cool?
Oh, I was like in plays when I was younger, like just community plays and stuff. I was pirate number 3 in Peter Pan, so it's kind of a big deal. So from there, like, I've always kind of had interest in that when I was younger, and I don't know why, the acting stuff. Maybe it was just being a, excitable kid at family gatherings. Maybe that's what kind of bled into it. But yeah, it was always kind of something that I definitely really enjoyed. Okay. So kind of from there, that's just where it always spawned off from.
Okay. Do you want to do this? Hang on. What would you prefer? You said about drawing, like you used to draw and that drew you inspiration. Pardon the pun, drew you inspiration to do animation. So did you think you would do hand-drawn animation or CGI, depending on what you want? What did you think worked best, hand-drawn or CGI? What did you start with?
So my schooling, we did like a split for the 3 year for CG and hand-drawn. At the time, because like Pixar was also very big up and coming around that time, so I was really in like, oh, I want to be at Pixar, I want to be on CG stuff. But I kind of found, I don't know if it was just why it got drawn this way, but I really enjoyed the 2D hand-drawn side a lot. Like, I found I wasn't particularly great at the technical side of CG, which made me definitely very envious of classmates that were. But yeah, so I guess I've always, really since then, always had a 2D kind of path in my industry. Like, I think I've only worked once in CG, and I love being 3D as well. Like, I think 3D looks very cool. I found I never was really good at the puppeting. I just kind of always really sucked at easing in actions, and always looked very mechanical.
Okay. Like about with your 2D animation, like, is there a certain art style or an animator you kind of draw inspiration from, in a way? Like, what like inspires your art style or your way of drawing?
I don't know if I actually have. I guess I could say maybe in a broader sense, I get drawn into like the filmmaker style. So like I really get pulled to like, oh, Pete Docter stuff or Hayao Miyazaki works. Like, I don't really kind of get too pulled into a certain style from a certain artist. I think that's also from me, transitioning over to the storyboard side as well a lot. So I found like those kind of cues. I was like, oh, how do they choose shots and what kind of stories are they telling is what really pulls me in. And I think from there, the drawing style might reflect that based
Okay.
on, if that makes sense in that way.
Okay. Okay. Out of all the animations out there, what would you have loved to work on? What would you would have loved to do?
I would have loved to work on Up, Pixar's Up. Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's the one that really hit me when I was in college at the time, of just being like, oh, this is amazing. In like a couple of minutes, they made me a weeping, sack of water from that opening scene.
The first 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, the first 10 minutes are just waterworks for everyone.
Well, so young. I was quite young when I watched it, so I didn't have a clue at first. When I rewatched it, I was like, "Oh God, okay."
Yeah, so that would definitely be something. I just thought the characters were so interesting and angular and very odd looking, but I loved everything about it. It had so much heart. So that'd be something for sure I wish I could have worked on.
Oh yeah. Okay. So talking about what stuff you've done, like what kind of projects have you animated in a sense, what was like the first thing you worked on?
So the first thing I worked on was Ugly Americans. It was this kind of show on Comedy Central. It was all about monsters living in New York, and it was like a late night adult comedy show. And it was a really fun, stylized, I think almost like an old pop, not pop magazines, but comics. But I think there's like a word for it. But it's like had a very stylized approach. And I was very fortunate to have that be my first jump into the industry. Because it was such a unique kind of show to work on. And from there, I've done some children's shows like Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. I'm not sure if they make it that far out there. They're pretty PBS American shows, but some so it's like children's shows for teaching kids about math and feelings and all that kind of fun stuff. And then also I had the chance to work with some old studio friends on this show called Gary and His Demons, which was a pretty fun speed show of an old demon hunter who's kind of just trying to retire and going through his days of killing demons and trying to, have a good relationship with his niece and all this kind of fun stuff, and him also drinking all the time and killing people. So that was a fun one to work on too. So it's been kind of a different sides of the spectrum.
Out of all those that you've mentioned, what would you say was your favorite?
Definitely Gary and His Demons. It was.
Oh, okay.
It was a lot of fun.
Concept to it.
Yeah, it has a nice little concept and idea to it. Like I've never heard of that one before, really.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'd recommend it. It's just really, if you want just something just with a lot of swearing and a lot of just violence and just all that fun crap. That's where I look.
Okay. Yeah. You said something about how your was it Ugly Americans was your first big jump into the industry. So what path were you taking to get to that point exactly? To get to Ugly Americans, what path did you have to go?
With that one, that was out of school. I was fortunate where it was within the first couple months after moving up to Toronto from my hometown, a few hours south of here. I moved up with some friends, and then we all just kind of started, even before moving up, really just hitting emails, just checking everywhere, going, "Hey guys, my name's Sean, and I just graduated in animation. I was hoping you have some positions available for an animation team." And from there, it kind of bled into we did a test in-house, so they were welcoming people in to, here's a scene, and here's the boards you would get, and we want to see you do either the keyframes or, within X amount of time, animate the whole section. So from there, I did a test, and then luckily I got the call back and was set to work, I think, a couple weeks later.
So just reaching yourself out there, kind of just putting yourself up there, here's my work. If you're interested in talent, here you go. Here's my email and stuff like that. That kind of thing,
Yeah. It was usually they were looking for demo reels.
A positive way of doing it, yeah. So next we want to
talk about since you do hand-drawn animation, did you use a specific software, or did you just do it by paper?
It was all software based when I graduated. though, which was funny because in school we learned on paper, but then after we kind of had to take a hard, quick turn to learn. At the time, it was Flash was the big one being used out here from Adobe. Yeah, but most places here now are using Toon Boom Harmony. Seems to be the common one, and a lot of it would be symbol based or based like cutout style, like we're moving elements, kind of puppety with some drawn elements. A lot of like, oh, you'll be redrawing hands or maybe pushing expressions, so you're redrawing those, or maybe you possibly need a new arm that you'll redraw. But the software's come such a far way where you can bend and morph stuff where it almost looks perfectly hand drawn with a lot quicker turnaround and less headaches. Yeah.
Less headaches. Yeah. So like so you said something like, you know, that software you use gives you a lot of opportunities to move stuff around and stuff, you know, make it more zany and cartoony and stuff.
Yeah.
Like getting fluent. Like so what do you think is the best way to make sure you get realistic movements in the animation? Like what makes it so fluent and like more realistic instead of just being so static like that? Like, what's the best way to do it?
Definitely you want a lot of overlapping action, but not too much so that it's super distracting. Like, oh, if they have, let's say it was like Bugs Bunny, it's like, yeah, his ears would kind of drag back when you're moving, but you don't want to overcompensate. Yeah, like where it's like he moved one, you know, just a little bit over, and then all of a sudden the ears went crazy. But I find that those little subtle things are really what bring it a lot of extra life and just staggering actions.
Yeah, and stuff like recording yourself to get you an idea on how the body moves and stuff.
Yeah, like those are definitely very helpful aids. Yeah, definitely recording yourself is like a super helpful aid, or thumbnailing it out if you're just trying to really figure out, how would I do this action? Do a little quick sketch. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So back to what you worked on. Is there a certain? Have you ever worked on a project that has like a certain political view? And like, if not, or if you have, why?
Nothing I've worked on, I think, has been had any political leanings with anything. It's mostly been basically late night comedy was the adult realm of it, where it was mostly just kind of just something to make people laugh and was usually trying to be edgy. And then other than that was also children's stuff, which never touches the political realm. It's always more about helping people internally and all that kind of thing. So I can't think of anything that's been political leaning or had any kind of.
Some shows like Family Guy, they touch on those political issues quite,
but like
strongly.
Yeah, like, you know, work is work. You may just do it. You just do it for the money, really, or just for the experience. Usually.
Yeah.
If you would like to teach someone like me or Darren how to get to hand-drawn animation, which we won't, but say that we did, what would you think me and Darren would need to do to get into that role?
So I think the main thing is understanding good timing and working on like drawing skills and understanding of proportions and just like a proper. I think definitely for our industry, understanding how to draw something that someone else has is a very important thing. So like you have Charizard in the background on your calendar. It's like if you're working on a Charizard show, I saw him. If you're on a Charizard show, you have to know how to draw Charizard. So I think that's a big thing for hand drawn, is being able to adapt to everyone else's style, so you can look like it's all drawn by one hand, the whole thing. So I find good draftsmanship, being able to draw it close to what they're looking for, and then like a great sense of timing and naturalistic acting choices. So like a lot of, I remember like my teacher would talk about, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this a lot, is just doing a lot of people watching goes a long way. Like if you're at like the park and you see how people are interacting or running around, or just noticing how everyone's doing general acting stuff.
So like if I were to like, I mean I can't do that now, but if I were to like go outside at some point to like a busy place and just record it for like 20 minutes. Would that help give me an idea on how like to animate a crowd or see how a crowd would behave?
Yeah, hey, you could do that. Yeah, definitely. Like, I would watch out for privacy concerns from people. Like, but yeah, like.
It was just an idea.
Yeah, no, that would go a long way because you can just watch people and get a sense of like, oh, even the simple things of like how someone sits. Like, they talk about that in life drawing, where taking life drawing is such a handy thing because you get to see how the body does things comfortably. Because I find that's a common thing if we're drawing, and yet if you're not thinking or conscious of how the body moves, you might put the character into positions that would be uncomfortable for them to do or unrealistic, which then I find can kind of knock the audience out of it.
Yeah, I guess.
So, if you would like to be a teacher on animation, would you give any advice to people?
Like any advice to people who are aspiring animators like myself in terms of the CGI business? It's like any advice you would give to anybody who's like trying to animate anything.
Yeah, I'd say just practice. Like, I think the practice does go a long way, which it sounds so cliche or not anything, but really that is the big part where it's within like even the short time or like the past 10 years working, it's like the amount that I've learned just by having more time hands-on with it. It's like I've come so far from when I first started and when I first even graduated and started working in the industry. It's just it's one of those classic things where it's like you just need to put more and more time into it. And the more time you put, the better you'll get. Much like with anything, it's like a pencil you need to sharpen. And if you leave it dull, it's just gonna still be dull, not gonna give you good stuff. But you got to sharpen it and work on it. And that's how you get those fine lines and the cleaner edges.
Everything and how everything works to get like more like challenging yourself.
Yeah.
But maybe set yourself small challenges every day. So you do this and do that.
But then also,
something. Is that what you're trying to say here?
Yeah.
What was it again? Sorry.
I'm kind of like setting yourself small challenges or something. Like maybe just start with still images and then like try a little keyframe of like I don't know, like a second or something moving.
And then also like with the idea of more challenges every day, it's like I find a really important thing when you're learning something as well is give yourself more challenges or more goals to hit, but also then to remind yourself not to beat yourself up if those goals, if you try and achieve and you go, this wasn't really what I was looking for. It's like to remind yourself not to go and give up because it didn't work out the way you wanted. It's like we're all learning, so we're never going to be perfect the first time around. So I think, it's just a matter of just kind of working at it and not kind of putting yourself down if you feel like you're not getting it yet. Because there's still stuff today where I'm going, I suck at that. I will not touch effects. Someone else can handle that. And it's like, you talk to the effects person, they go, oh yeah, I've been loving effects. I've been tracing off, Fantasia when I was younger. I was drawing fires all the time. It's like, for them, they put all that time in and it makes sense for them. So if I was to go, well, I should just be able to do the same fire as him, that's unrealistic and I'll set myself up for failure. So I find putting that time in is so important, and also allowing yourself the room to breathe and grow and not to put down on yourself when you don't get it right away is such an important part of the learning process for anything, even.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's really good advice.
Really good.
Yeah. Going back to your how you work and stuff. Like you said that you practice a lot. In your 10, was it 10 years you've done animation?
Yeah, 10 years, a few months back.
Okay, so what do you think has been the most enjoyable parts of your career
or
animation
of the animation process as a whole? Is what you mean in a way.
I think the most rewarding part is always seeing it all put together at the end, like with the team, where you get to see the episode all cut together and all animated, and you go like, oh sweet, like we did it. Like you get to see the tangible thing that happened, and there's kind of like a nice, really very simple reward feeling from that, because we always start the first couple weeks you see just the board of it and you're going, boy, this is gonna be tough, or like how's that one section gonna work, or I don't know. And then once you see it all moving later and everyone's submitted their stuff, you just go like, oh, this was really nice. Like it's such a simple pleasure, but I find it always does kind of keep rewarding.
It's kind of like, watching it and then like just like getting feedback from others when they watch your like rough draft or something.
Yeah.
Knowing that you've done something good here, but like I think you could do better. Like going back to like don't feel beat up by it if they don't like your shot.
Yeah.
Or like say we need to change things.
Oh, that's definitely an important hurdle that I had to get over in animation was you'll get revisions. That's a big part of the process because that's just the way it goes where, maybe the director or the client was imagining it or looking for it a different way. And I find such an important thing for me to learn as well was to not take it personally because it's so easy with everything being art-based to kind of feel like that's just a part of me, that's a reflection of myself. So I find when those revisions happen, it's so important to learn to kind of separate yourself from the emotion side of it because you can very quickly feel like, oh, why'd they tell me to move this a little differently? What do they know? I think learning to kind of separate yourself from those parts of it is such an important, healthy part of the process.
Okay. Yeah. Another thing I would like to ask is like, what would you say is like the best animation out there like you've seen on a technical level? Like you said something about you used to trace Fantasia or something when you were younger. Was it?
That was more of an example of like an effects friend who was really good at effects. Like they would watch Fantasia all the time or try and pull up keyframes to understand how they move.
I love Fantasia as well.
Yeah, Fantasia is very cool. I think I'm trying to think of now what most recently comes to mind. I think for 3D for me it would be Spider-Verse. The Amazing Spider-Man Spider-Verse one.
That has such good animation.
Yeah.
Like that one was very cool and also just technically just incredible with a whole blend of 3D and 2D with all the processing they did and rendering styles. I think for sure that would be the top CG animated like feat I've seen for animation in general.
What about 2D? Like what about 2D animation? Like the thing that you worked on, anyway.
What I've worked on, or just
no, like what's like your favorite 2D animation like ever? Because you talked about 3D, but what about 2D?
For 2D, my favorite would be, I think it would have to be Spirited Away. It's probably my favorite.
Is that the anime one?
Yeah, it's an anime film.
I think it is. I don't know. I think I forgot what Spirited was.
I think I know this one. I think the creator of that. I think
Spirited Away, is it?
Yeah, that one. Yes.
Oh yeah.
It's really famous.
I remember now. Yeah, that one.
It's a pretty famous film.
Yeah, that was a big one when I was younger when it was coming out, and I think that was like at least the first one I've seen where it was Studio Ghibli or Hayao Miyazaki works making it to North America, and I found that one just really always stayed with me, and I find every time I watch that one, I really love their acting style and like the way they move things.
Mm-hmm.
It's all so pretty, and I find it just I really enjoyed those. But I guess that one would definitely kind of be the one that kind of comes to mind the most.
Yeah, in terms of 2D animation, I've always liked the zany parts of it, like in Dumbo where they have like, was it the pink elephants on parade?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I really loved how zany it was. Like having the Woozles and Winnie the Pooh, that was also really good. They have some Woozles.
Yeah.
I just love random craziness going on. It's just, I think it really tests the animator's skills and creativity in a way.
Yeah. Well, I guess like anything with the genie and Aladdin is always really fun. Like how much.
Like they had to keep up with Robin Williams and everything because he was talking so fast.
And all the crazy stuff they would do. Like I remember, I think that one was a lot of freedom to the animator, to Eric Goldberg, to do all this crazy wild stuff. And it's like, wow, he delivered. He made such a fun, interesting sequence that matched Robin Williams' energy.
Yeah. So you've talked a lot about animation and like you like it, how you develop it and stuff. What is it that you specifically animate? Like, what is the specific role in your job? Like, is there any specific animations that you've been working, like, so we know where to look if we watch one of them?
Mm-hmm.
So specifically, it would be Ugly Americans season 2 or 3 would be animation artist or animator. I think it was billed as animation artist. And then done, because then a couple last few years I've been doing storyboarding work. So for Gary and His Demons, I was mainly the storyboard artist, but I kind of animated a couple scenes here and there. But if he was looking at Gary and His Demons, I'd be storyboard artist, and then Peg plus Cat would be storyboard artist as well, and Xavier Riddle would be storyboard artist. I'm trying to think of, there's like 5 years of animation. I don't know why I am blanking on it. There's stuff out there. There's got to be more. Yeah, I know there's Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood for animation. Yeah, I guess that's to name a few. I think my IMDb is probably a little better at remembering what I did than I did.
Yeah. So it's like, do you think that storyboarding would, like, as a 2D animator, like, if anyone else was getting into 2D animation, do you think storyboarding would be a good place to start, or like practice your drawings in a way?
Storyboarding, I find, is more of a later down the road role as you kind of get more familiar with the other sides of the production, because like the storyboarding is very much like making a blueprint for the episode. So we get the script, and then we get like the fun pack or the designs for the episode, and the backgrounds as well. We kind of plan out, oh, well, here's the shot we need. It's one shot of Sean, a single explaining storyboards. Then we cut to a wide outside his apartment, and like a meteoroid goes in, because that's what the script's asking for. But it's a lot of us figuring out the camera work and all the shot choices and the acting choices. So I find it really helped to work through animation and then transition to that role, because I had to have a better sense of what the animators need to work with, and what what kind of acting cues would they be looking for to help make it clear for them what we're looking for, and kind of help everyone in the pipeline move along in a nice way. But also, that's not necessarily the path everyone has to take. It's not like if you're in animation, the road ends at storyboarding. It's like in animation, you can go through the lead position, or through effects, or animation director, or even director down the road too. So there's always so many different facets, if that's the right word, that you can go through just with the idea of knowing how to animate. Yeah.
You mean like different places to go?
Yeah.
Well, you know how to animate. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Different places for sure.
Okay, Sean, I think that's all. I think that's all the questions we have.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope it helped to answer or shed light on anything for you guys. Yeah.
I think it's definitely shed some light in me. I'll tell you that much.
It gave me inspiration.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be an animator, but now I'm more of an editor because I practice editing quite frequently.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Like, if you're finding you're drawn to it, it's like, if that pulls your inspiration or your excitement, it's like, go for it. Yeah, like all the.
Yeah.
Especially, it's great nowadays with all the tools that are way more readily available to like be able to play around with stuff and kind of get your hands dirty with it.
Because like we've been busy doing other animation. There's not really animation, but like just little small animations and a lot of different editing styles. And working with Amy was really good.
Oh, cool.
Is it hard to be an animator?
It can be with, especially like I'm in more of the television animation side, so there's quicker deadlines than we would have for feature work, and that's the kind of part that I find can be difficult. It's a quick-paced industry, but that being said, it's become so much more second nature that I find it gets less difficult to get with it. So that is something that is kind of a little bit of a learning curve, but I believe we still try not to give unrealistic goals, because at the end of the day, if they're all asking for, such a quick turnaround that it's impossible for the team to get it done in time, nothing's going to happen. So it still has to be within reason. So I find that's just the only kind of tough part, but it's, again, like a learning curve that you'll find your groove after a bit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I suppose in terms of looking at this kind of 2D stuff, where do you think it's necessary for a story to jump from that kind of 2D animation to the 3D more CGI stuff? Why do you make that decision, and where do you make that decision?
I think it's going to sound not as fine creative, but I think the reason why that's mostly happened, or why it happens, isn't usually even storytelling based, because both stories could be told in either medium. I just believe it kind of became more of the industry went that way because, Disney and DreamWorks saw that Pixar was making this CG stuff, and then kind of the big business guys kind of went, oh, well, this CG stuff's a new thing, and everyone's excited about that. So then they all kind of started shifting gears and went that direction, because they, much like how we're seeing with like Marvel movies and like big franchise blockbusters kind of taking over, it's that idea of, oh, this is doing really well, it must be because of that one thing. So that's kind of why I think we've seen such a huge shift to 3D from 2D.
Yeah.
But we're also, like, I have one friend who's working on Looney Tunes right now. It's exciting to see you're seeing a return, at least for sure in the television world, because in the television world, 2D animation is still much cheaper than 3D CG animation. So we're seeing this interesting shift of like very cool styles of 2D animation propping up for different properties, and they're just like the Looney Tunes one looks unbelievable. Like the stuff they're doing with technology is really blending this line between hand drawn and then cut out rigged style animation. So they're being able to pump it out with less of the time it would take to draw something, because drawing something hand drawn animation takes so much longer, and unfortunately for like the TV pipeline process, that's just becoming too difficult to pull off. So we are seeing more cool, creative 2D properties in the television world now as the technology is catching up or being able to do way more for us.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, unless there's any other questions, I just want to say cheers, Sean, for coming on and answering all of our questions. And great questions from Zach, Darren, Kira there.
Yeah, thank you for the questions. It was a lot of fun. I hope
it was really useful to actually get some advice from someone in the industry. It was very inspiring.
Oh, that's great.
No, Rob was great as well. Like, just actually learning with someone from a medium that I'm really, really interested in. It's just something that was like, it was really
Yeah.
That's great. It's definitely so valuable to hear. Because I remember even when I was in school, like we didn't hear it too much until like a post grad came back and kind of talked to us, and it is such a relieving, or it makes it almost feel like it's real. You're like, okay, so it is out there. There is people working and doing it, because you start to feel like it's just a distant idea of that industry. So it is definitely fun to talk to people that are working in it, and it's so beneficial. So I'm glad I was able to come by and chat with you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much for answering the questions.
Sean, can I ask one quick question before we close down?
Yeah.
Okay.
What advice would you give your 20-year-old self? So you're just sort of graduating from school, rewind the clock back a little bit.
Okay, that's a good one. If I was to talk to my 20-year-old self and give advice to him, I think it would be to be a little more patient with goals that I had or expectations for where I wanted my career to be, because I think I put a lot of pressure on, I want to do this by this point, or I really want to work here, or I'm not as talented as the animator sitting next to me. I find I kind of struggled with that competitiveness that ended up just being really unnecessary negative time wasting. So I think that would be something that I wish I could say to myself when I was 20. It was just to slow down and relax and just take the ride instead of worrying about like how quickly you're getting to the destination or where you're at in comparison to your peers, because I find that is such a dangerous, toxic way to go down.
I think I get where you're coming from, Sean. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I get a little bit impatient. Sometimes I was like, sometimes you get that little fluctuation of feeling of like, I might not be doing good enough and stuff. I mean, like just knowing that, like, just slow down a little bit, stuff like that. I think if you do that, it really does help, because I tried it once and it did work. It was like I think I felt really good after that.
Yeah.
Just knowing that you're doing your best. Just don't force yourself to keep going as hard as you like. Well, don't keep going, but just don't force yourself to do too much. In a way, that could burn you out and stuff, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah, especially in the age of social media that all of you are living in, because it's like when I was 20, Facebook was big, but I don't think we had Instagram, which I know for me Instagram was a terrible influence from seeing, like, you're following, oh, this person's art style is amazing, and then you go, holy crap, they're so good, I suck. Like, I'm gonna put up a drawing. It only got 3 likes and they have 15,000. And I find that was something I had to learn to see what I was doing to myself and how you kind of end up self-sabotaging, because there's so many people that are in just so many different parts of their artistic career, and like you can't compare yourself to what they're doing, because that person maybe has been drawing forever, or maybe they just got it quicker, and that's okay. It's just learning that everyone's doing their own thing and not to beat yourself up because it's silly to compare yourself to what that person's doing.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good idea. Yeah. Do you have anything to say?
No, it's all right.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm fine. I mean, there's plenty of advice right there. I can definitely take it.
Yeah, I think that was great.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
Especially when it comes to actually working. Like, don't, like what you said, Sean. Don't beat yourself up. Like, don't compare yourself to others. Like, they're so good, so that means I'm really bad.
And I feel like that's just a big, broad life lesson too, because I find that just becomes so much of everything now, is comparing yourself to everyone else, and it doesn't help you do what you want to do or what you want to get out of your life. So I find that's such an important thing to watch out for and be aware of when that's happening to yourself, or when you're casting that self-doubt, because it just doesn't do anything for anyone.
Yeah. So I take self-doubt as like a big obstacle, like one of your earliest obstacles when you were first starting your own work and stuff. Was that like a big obstacle for you, like with your self-doubt?
Oh yeah, like I remember, I guess, like back to when I first went to college for animation. It's like I was in high school, and maybe I was 1 out of 3 people who was drawing or really inclined to the arts out of my whole class of, I think, 50 in high school. So then it's like you're kind of a big fish in a little pond, and then you go to college, and I'm now surrounded by 29, 30 other artists, all who are people from their own schools that they were the best, and they come here and it's like, oh, they're all really good. Or you start trying to size yourself up and go, oh, their drawings are amazing, or mine are.
A huge change in scenery, like really quickly, in like the step of a finger.
Oh yeah, like, so that's just a hurdle that you're gonna encounter no matter what. Like, you go to a new studio, maybe it's the cooler studio in town, so everyone there, they've got really talented artists, editors, like just everyone's always the top of their game. So you're always gonna feel like you're not good enough, but it's like, well, then it just circles back to the idea of like not causing that self-doubt, because that just hurts yourself, and there's no point in doing that to yourself. Do the best you can do. That's, I find, the most important thing.
That's a very positive advice. Like, lots of very positive advice. That's good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Right. Shall I stop the recording there then, Rob?
Yeah, let's go.
Moving the mic.